Right, welcome guys to a new episode of the Self-Made Mind podcast. It's a new era, new start for everyone, and I just want to start off with a bit of gratitude, really. Thank you for Danny and James for hosting us here at this beautiful venue, Albion Street Studios. Just really grateful for you having us here.
It's a beautiful spot, isn't it?
It is, mate.
Really trendy.
It is, yeah.
You've done a good job, Danny.
Well done, Danny.
Thumbs up from Dan.
This is just the start of a new era for the podcast, really. Lots of new beginnings. We've got a new focus. We're going for the unlocking your physical, mental and spiritual health, which is an exciting path for us to be going down. Got some special guests here. First, my new partner in crime, Dan Ramsden.
Hello there.
A big shout out to our creative director as well, behind the scenes, Mrs. Kennedy Power. You've got the power. And of course, our first in-person guest ever. Yeah. Mr. James Roffey, the mental health PT.
Yep.
How are you doing, buddy?
Yeah, I'm really good. Really good. Proper honour to be here to
Good.
to start it all off. So yeah.
Yeah. Feels weird because normally just sat in his front room on
With
the
your underpants on.
underpants on.
That was my first.
Shirt on.
Shirt on. You know, like on Football Manager when you're going into the final.
Yeah.
We know the vibe.
So we've all done that.
No, I felt really excited about this. We've all been in sports teams, haven't we? It feels a bit like before a big final or something like that. You know, pretty much nerves.
Yeah.
Butterflies, but in a good way.
Use them.
Yeah, man. Let's get this chat underway. James, tell us your story, mate, and let's start from the beginning if we can.
Start from the beginning.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, my story really started when my eating disorder. I had an eating disorder for 10 years, from the age of 17 to 27. Going back further than that, my dad was a goalkeeper. Obviously, you know me through football, and I've always been a goalkeeper. I wanted to follow in his footsteps, emulate your dad. So it was always set out for me to do what he did. Watching him play when I was little, obviously got the chance to join my local team, and then I managed to play for my town and my county. And I think from the age of 8, I joined Charlton Athletic, and it was kind of mapped out for me at that age that I got picked for everything, and like, you're going to go far and you're going to go this, you do this and do this. And so I was there until I was 16, obviously on the verge of signing a professional contract, and we're not signing you. That's it. And it was kind of like
Ruthless.
Yeah. And like, I get it. Like if you don't, especially when you looking back from where I am now, it's far different. And I appreciate that it's very much like there's millions of kids that they can choose from, and it's just a tick box. I wasn't tall. I didn't start growing until I was 18. So I was probably one of the shortest players on the pitch. So being a goalkeeper, especially these days, well, it may be earlier, you got to be imposing, and I probably didn't tick that box. So someone else was taller, they got the spot. I didn't feel I felt like I'd let my dad down more than anyone. Obviously, my dad and my mum sacrificed a lot. See, we lived down south at the time, so I used to go to school in Ashford, and then they used to have to drive me 4 times a week to London, which is probably close to like 100-mile round trip every time. So obviously they invested a lot of time and effort in me, and when it's like mapped out that you're going to be this and this, and you can be able to support your parents, and then it comes to nothing. There was like I felt like I owed them, and I had nothing. There was nothing to show for like the 8 years of them ferrying me around.
And how old are you at this point? 16?
I would have been 16,
yeah.
And I think you hear it from most people. Like, I didn't feel good enough, so I stopped playing football. Didn't want to play football. I was so regimented and routined in regards to training 4 or 5 times a week that when I stopped, it was probably my first noticeable difference of like diet. My diet was, I used to eat a lot. Obviously, I used to burn it all off as a kid. see 17, she started to go through like puberty and stuff, and I put on a lot of weight. Looking back at pictures from, I was 17, so it was like my first year of A levels at school, and I looked like I could put on a lot of weight. I didn't really notice it at the time, but fast forward to the end of the first year of my A levels, I didn't do very well. I went to a grammar school, and it's kind of drummed into you, you've got to be the elite. I was never naturally gifted at, I wasn't clever. I had to try a lot harder than my friends that could all like go out and they just know everything, whereas I had to put a lot of work in.
You're not alone, mate. You're not alone.
Yeah. So
Likewise.
I always say it's like
Never
to get
academic.
to get to a grammar school, it's like you've got to be the top like 2%. And I was definitely the bottom percentage. I must have scraped in by the skin of my teeth.
Yeah.
But
It's so heavily focused on kids. I think it's changing now, but when we were kids, it were all about academic.
Yeah.
All about that.
It is,
You know,
and obviously-
it wasn't about creatives.
no,
You know?
no. It
And-
was,
and-
it was obviously because it was all
So
judged
I was
on-
screwed.
Yeah, exactly. Like obviously the schools were they were only like their metric was how many people got A to C's in GCSEs and A levels and stuff, and obviously grammar school, it's even higher up. So obviously my dad owns his own business. Obviously, I've got a brother who's 5 years older than me. He went to uni, and obviously being at the grammar school, it's drummed into do this, do that, do this, go to uni, and because my dad owns his own business, my brother did business studies at uni. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I've got to do business studies because they've done it. And that was the exam that I cocked up. So in order for me to continue doing it, to get enough UCAS points to go to uni, I had to leave and go to college and do a BTEC diploma.
Yeah.
So it meant leaving school. So the rigmarole of leaving school, all your friends, like I know I'd see them on the weekend and stuff, but it's like that massive change of seeing them every day. And again, it didn't hit me then either. Started college, and I think the first year of college, my nan, who lived in London, my mum's mum, decided that she didn't want to live in London anymore, too much crime and like locally to her. So she sold a house. We had an extension built on the side of a house, and before it was finished, she got diagnosed with cancer. And that would have been in January, I'm not sure what year, but it was that aggressive that she passed away in March. Because I was at college, I was only there part-time, and it was like I was at home more, and obviously to see that the rate of decline and that feeling of helplessness, I decided however my headspace was at the time, I decided to punish myself. So I decided to stop eating and excessively exercise as a way of punishing myself. I think all these big life events, like 3 things happened within the space of less than 2 years. I just felt like I couldn't control what was going on in my life. I wasn't good enough for football. I wasn't good enough for school. I'm not good enough to be able to help my nan. And it was my way of punishing myself. So I ended up, the first year of it was anorexia, where I just literally used to go I remember going on the treadmill, and I used to run for hours and hours every day. And it was just an internal battle with myself, is how far can I run and how little can I eat? That was pretty much what I did for a year. And then after a year, it was like I'd reached that point where I had lost a lot of weight. But initially, in terms of like positive reinforcement from my friends who I used to see every week, wow, you look really good. Like, oh, you're doing really well. Like whatever you're doing, like it's working. So
Purely aesthetics.
yeah, exactly. So they don't know the mindset behind it. They just go, oh, you're looking well. And that was, as much as what I was doing was negative, that was the positive reinforcement I had to keep going. And obviously I have...
Were you underweight at that point?
I'd probably say I was like lean. I was probably on the border of being underweight.
Yeah.
And there's obviously...
Look good with the top off kind of material?
Would you call it like skinny ripped, whatever you want to say?
okay.
Yeah. So it was like, and obviously
So you can kind of get away with it still?
Exactly that. And obviously I had like, it was classed as like puppy fat, like when you're like going through puberty and stuff.
Yeah.
And so I'd lost that, and I'd started to lean out and get taller as well. So I think I was naturally like leaning out, and obviously what I was doing was just accelerating that. And then after like a year of doing it, where I just became so hungry all the time, that the way to rebel against that was to eat what I wanted and not keep it down. So after a year, it then manifested itself into bulimia. And that's when I don't know how to describe, like my life literally just went downhill like stupidly fast. Obviously, like most eating disorders that I now obviously realised, they strip away everything about you. They take you away from your friends because you don't want to go out, because you're so obsessed with food and wanting to eat, but you know that you can't eat around other people because you need to be sick. And it's like, so you don't go out. I used to have, like looking back now, it's just such an unhealthy routine whereby I would not eat anything during the day. I'd wait for my parents to go to bed, and then I would binge from 10:30 at night till 6 a.m. when my dad got up for work. And I did that for like 8 or 9 years. And it was like a military operation where obviously my parents knew what I was doing. Obviously, like my dad owns a security company, so he has cameras at the house. So I used to do, this is going to sound so weird, but you talk about it now. I used to buy my food from the supermarket, leave it in my car. Before I pulled up at home, I'd leave the boot of my door, my boot open, so it wasn't locked. When my parents went to bed, I'd climb out of my living room or dining room window, put the bags of food into the house, climb back into the window, and then I'd just make myself sick, and then just hide all the wrappers and stuff back in my car. Wow. And that was my routine, for like 8 years.
Really?
Yep. Yeah, and obviously like friends that I've known from school, so people that I've known from the age of 11, so I'd have been probably like 19, 20, like 21 now. Like, are you coming out this week? Are you coming out this week? And I'd just not reply. So you just like, it's no fault of their own. It's just like, well, he's not bothered. So like completely fell out of contact with like my friends from school that I grew up with. Obviously wasn't well enough to work. Like signed off on the sick. And then problems over that 8 years, maybe like 5-6 years into it, was when I started to pass out. Obviously it got to the point where I was getting no nutrients at all, and obviously whatever I was putting in, wasn't keeping down. So there'd be times when I'd get up in the middle of the night wanting to go to the toilet. I'd go to the toilet, but I'd wake up on the bathroom floor. Wouldn't even know how I got there. And obviously it started to happen in front of my parents. So obviously I ended up having to go to hospital. I'd spend like a few days in hospital on a drip because my phosphate and potassium levels were like dangerously low. And then I think that one of the last times I went into hospital, they basically said, my parents had to sign a do not resuscitate form at 21. At 21, they had to sign it because I was at high risk of going into cardiac arrest, but my potassium levels in my body were that low. They're kind of like, that's the like electrolyte to kickstart your heart. So there's like no petrol in the tank. Like there's a way of looking at it.
So it just wouldn't happen.
They wouldn't. The hospital, the doctors wouldn't have even attempted to revive me. And even that wasn't I've actually got to sort myself out. That wasn't even.
What is it not?
Nope. That wasn't even a wake up call. It still took like another 3 years after that.
Wow.
But after that,
so you're severely depressed as well at this point, would you say?
Although it was never, again, it's really hard to think about where I was like mentally at that point. But I must have. It was never like diagnosed or anything like that. But it must be, because the scenario of things that I used to do, when you think about it now. So when I talk about it with my mum and dad, and obviously letting my partner of like 3 years like know what it's like, it's taken a bit of time for her to like ask questions. Obviously, if anyone asks me questions, I'll happily talk about it. It's just a way of like, if I share it and the people that can relate to it, they can see where I am now, and they know that there is a way out. But yeah, it was never diagnosed to that. But then the last time I was in the hospital, they basically said, go to an eating disorder unit or we'll section you, basically. So I went as a voluntary. But then obviously we're talking like 15 years ago. So like there wasn't a lot of mental health services available, especially eating disorders and for guys. So I wasn't even allowed to go in the eating disorder unit as an inpatient. I had to be a day patient because there was no facilities for guys because it was all women. So I had to go as a day patient. And so it was at the age of, I think it was 20, it was either 23 or 24, I had to learn how to eat again. So you basically, and again, talk about the worst thing you can do when you've got an eating disorder is to have people watching you eat. But you were given food, you were told to stay at the table, eat it all, and you couldn't leave the table for like an hour. You were under like supervision from the moment you arrived to the day that you went. But for someone that was so routined in what I did, I needed for someone to be like, you're not in control now, we're in control. And I think that was, as much as I still had it for a number of years after that, that was kind of the catalyst to change. Because I think having that structure for, it was about 3 months I was there.
Deeply ingrained, isn't it? The habits are deeply set, aren't they?
And it was like, although I went there reluctantly, obviously I went there, and I think even just eating, I don't even know what the meal plan was, but I'm sure if you looked at it now, you'd think like I'd probably eat more than that for breakfast now. But it's what I needed, and I think I kind of started to get out of that mindset. I think because I was eating, keeping food down, I think my brain just kind of come back to life. Like I felt a little bit better. I felt brighter. I probably like cognitive function was better. And I then obviously my dad helped me. I saw hypnotists. I saw sports psychologists.
So you tried some alternative methods as well.
Obviously because there wasn't a lot of mental health services available. My dad literally just scoured the internet. Right. Like obviously my parents were amazing throughout all of it, but my dad especially, obviously his biggest fear was him waking up, going to work one morning and finding me dead in the bed. People that I went in the eating disorder unit with are no longer here because of that exact same thing. Obviously
the risk of death with something like this is quite high, isn't it? Especially with anorexia. Is that right?
Yeah.
I just wanted to touch on something. You made like the transition from anorexia to bulimia. Now, one of them is they're quite different, aren't they? So one of them chases like a reward, like a positive feeling.
Yep.
You know, the anorexia, you feel good because you've not eaten, sort of thing. The other one is kind of destructive, where you eat until you feel sick. It's like a negative feeling. I'm just curious about that switch. What do you think? Where do you think the switch came from?
It's funny that the people that I was in the eating disorder unit with, all the girls, majority of them all had bulimia, and it seems like not that there's like everyone follows the same path, but it's kind of that constant control and restriction of food. It's you get to the point where you want to rebel against it. So it's like for so long I won't eat. Right. I won't eat.
Restricting,
yeah. And then it's just that I'm just going to eat everything in sight. You just get to that point where it's just that
builds up like a
exactly
volcano,
that, and then it's just that pressure cooker then goes off, and then it's like you open Pandora's box. And it's like you will literally just all them foods that you demonize and you think are bad, you will just binge on to the point where your stomach is so like distended, and but it's like it's so hard to explain because it's this. You get the reward for doing the exercise with the anorexia, and then you get the reward when you're eating the food with the bulimia. But then so you get that probably that dopamine release like you would with any sort of habit.
Yeah.
And then it's shame. The moment you swallow it, it's shame. Because obviously when you had the anorexia you didn't eat.
Yeah.
And then the bulimia, like you're forgetting about that and you're eating, and then the moment you eat it, it's like I've got to get it out of me. And it's obviously just that.
You were stuck in the past then, weren't you? From the events that had happened, from being a young man let go from football, the events that happened with your grandma, you were stuck there.
Yeah.
There were no sort of progress, were there, in terms of your personal mindset development?
No.
And I'm guessing you just wanted to kind of stay within it. I'm guessing,
I
you
think
know.
the thing, obviously, like I studied like psychology at A level, so obviously only on like skimming the surface of it. But it's kind of like I had like the Stockholm syndrome. Like I had the eating disorder for so long that it was me. Like I didn't have an identity. I was just like James with the eating disorder. So it's like if I got rid of that eating disorder, who am I? I don't have
Yourself
anything.
in a box sort of thing, yeah.
Yeah, I just felt like it was the only thing that I had. I didn't have a job, didn't have friends, didn't have a girlfriend, didn't have ambitions in life. All I had was the eating disorder. So it was like, if I got rid of
What
it,
a mad place to be.
Yeah, what am I?
Look at you now.
I don't have anything.
Are you proud of yourself?
Yeah,
Good.
yeah.
Good.
Should be, mate.
Should
yeah.
be.
And it's like I think the thing was that I think the way that people deal with issues now is completely different to like 10, 15 years ago. Obviously, mental health is far more at the forefront of people's thoughts. And I think going through the therapy and stuff that I had in the counselling, it was always, and I couldn't, even back then, I couldn't really understand it. It was always, tell me about your past. Tell me about your past. What was the trauma? How are you gonna deal with that? Instead of
Picking the scabs.
yeah, and I know you need to address trauma and you need to own it. That's the thing. You need to own it, but then you need to move on from it. Like instead of just constantly going on about it, it was like, and that's when my biggest help, obviously barring my parents, obviously it's me making the change, but there were like little nuggets of information that I picked up along the way when I was. People say to me, what was the catalyst to your change? What was it? And people want there to be this like rain, like, yeah. And all I say to them, it was boredom. That's what wanted me to change, was just like my parents had given me so much in life, like private school, holidays, like I probably was spoiled. I was anything I wanted for Christmas and birthdays I got, and it was just like they have invested all their time and money and sent me to private schools and all this, and what am I doing? Am I making them proud? Like, no. And I know I needed to change for me, but a lot of my recovery was for my parents as well. I just think like they're not going to be here forever. None of us are. But it's like in the point of like when they aren't here or when they're close to not being here, can they look back and be like, I'm proud of our sons? And I think like with my brother, yeah, my brother's like very successful. With me, up until obviously like we're talking what 7 years since I made like recovery. No, there was no like, barring memories of me as a kid, there would be nothing positive for they to go, like, and I just think like that what a waste of a life that I was having. 'Cause I wasn't living. I was just existing. Like there was no plans. There was no like short, medium, long term plans. And it was like the help of there was a sports psychologist that I worked with called Ashley Lawrence, who he worked with Gillingham Football Club. He's worked with England cricket team at the time, and he was very much not looking at the past, looking at the future. And he said, like, if you have a goal in mind, in your head, whatever that is, whatever you want it to be, it's the next time you think about having a binge or you going to buy that food or you have them thoughts, think about, is what I'm about to do going to get me closer or push me further away to that goal? And that, of all the stuff and all the crap that you've heard from like psychologists and counselling, it was like that. He told me that just in a random session with him, and that has stayed with me for over 10 years. And it's something that I apply every day. It sounds so simple, but it is so effective. And like you only need the people that I work with, you give them little nuggets, and some of the things that you say like sound cliche, but if they can make an attachment to that, like I have, like that one little thing was just, it just rolls off the tongue, but it's so powerful. It's such a powerful statement. It's like
the power of words, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It's just
that's one of the reasons why we're doing this. You know, people could pull one sentence from any of our chats, and it can change
Yeah.
perception straight away.
100%.
It's just
And
like,
it's like,
And your direction and what happens as an outcome,
Yeah.
which is it's huge.
And it is like
golden nuggets, as it were.
yeah,
Golden
someone
nuggets.
resonates with something, and then they open up, like they go down that rabbit hole, and it's like, and then it just builds. Like they then learn, they try and learn about themselves, and then they find an area that they want to explore, and then they can better themselves, and then they can find a like a career path or a new hobby, and then that it just snowballs to like their rate of progression from where they were to like the present. And obviously that's obviously like there is no quick fix with any type of mental health issue or addiction. It's obviously about understanding what habits are, and then you can, once obviously like habit is something that you do like repetitively, that it becomes ingrained in your brain.
yeah, subconscious.
Yeah, and obviously, so obviously that's the difference between a habit and a routine. Is something that you intend to do. It's like conscious effort, and obviously, like once that's been made, you can't break it. The only way you can do it is replace it.
Yeah.
So it's about, obviously, luckily for me, my eating disorder was kind of replaced with the gym, with fitness. And obviously I have obsessive compulsive disorder. I know that. I've got an obsessive personality. And since my recovery, and even before then, like I tried smoking once when I was like 16. I've never drunk. I have an occasional drink when I'm out with my missus, but apart from that, like I don't enjoy drink. I enjoy it like socially with her.
Yeah.
But I just think that if I was to, I probably am far more aware now. But if with my eating disorder, a lot of people replace an addiction with another addiction, like transference.
Yeah.
It's not, you're not curing it. You're just masking it and moving it onto something else. Like had I have got down into drugs, no way I'd be here. There is no way. And I think like, because the most important lesson to learn from anything is being self-aware. If you're aware of what your potential vices are, don't do them.
Yeah.
And have some sort of like coping mechanism in place. Like I have a crap day, I feel crap in myself, or I have an argument with the missus. Doesn't happen very often anymore, thank God. But
What's your secret?
Communication. So if I have a crap day, or I just feel down in myself, I go to gym.
Yeah.
Like that is my safety net.
Yeah.
And it's like a lot of people think.
Does that get unhealthy at times?
That's I would say it probably is obsessive. It
Okay.
probably is.
I've crossed the line. That's why I ask the question.
Yeah, I think, but it's not I say it's a healthy obsession. There are far worse things to be.
Of course.
Yeah, and obviously because I've been down that road, it's almost like I can let myself have this. Like it's not to the detriment of my relationship or my relationship with friends or my other hobbies. Like,
has it ever hindered you physically? You know, in terms of pushing yourself to a point. So that were mine were escapism,
right,
and being very present in the moment and not thinking about anything. So I used to pick mammoth tasks,
right,
physical tasks, and get lost in it. It's almost like being drunk on fitness, you know. And that became unhealthy for me, you know, to the point where it were detrimental to my health. Even though I was getting fitter and stronger in some ways, but my body would feel broken for 4 days.
Yeah.
I had to really repair from it, you know, like I'd had a big competition. So I think, you know, you just reminded me that it can.
The whole thing's
I think it can still sway into that
Yeah.
unhealthy territory if we're
It's
not
like,
careful.
I feel like I could write a book. I think in terms of the.
I think you should.
I think you should, mate.
I think it'd be in terms of the. I think like when
Stories there.
when you spent like 10 years doing nothing, and then you kind of you do flip it on its head. And I know like my dad's biased, obviously because I'm his son, but he said I've never seen anyone make a transformation like you, and it's very much that since I've sorted myself out, and obviously I've had people reach out to me, not so much, it's more families of other men that are struggling, and it's obviously when I first started doing this back in like 2019, obviously my Instagram, my Instagram like blew up when I started to make the change in the gym. So obviously we've gone off on a bit of a tangent thing. When I first started getting myself like normal and recovering, I still didn't know what the gym was. I'd never been to the gym really in my life. It was more the self-management of like day-to-day life. I got myself a job. So the job became my focus, my purpose. And I felt like I didn't take a day off for like a year of working there. And then like my boss made me take like a week off. So my brother, who lived in Sheffield at the time, I ended up spending like nearly a week with him. And while I was with him, he used to work for a project management company, and they were looking for a construction buyer. So my brother got the email, and he's like jokingly was like, "God, it's like you. It's like they're looking for you. That's like all the experience you've got." I was like, "It's up here. I can't move up here." He's like, "If I have a word, do you want to meet him while you're up here?" I was like, didn't buy any like proper clothes to go for an interview, but ended up having like an informal chat with them, and then it turned out that they offered me the job. So, and that was kind of like should I do it? There was like this internal battle in my head, like, am I well enough to do this? If I'm, I'd moved out of my parents' house and I'd got my own place, but I was still like 10 minutes down the road. So I was probably there more often than I was in my own place. So it's like, if I do this, it's almost like the stabilizers are off or the reins are off. There's no one checking up on me. And it was like, well, maybe I need that. Maybe I need to test myself to see whether I'm all right and I can live life on my own. And I think the moving up to Sheffield was another massive test that I passed. I got made redundant after 6 months. So that was another like new exciting opportunity, back down to earth.
Did you deal with it better this time?
I went on holiday.
Yeah,
I booked a holiday. Went to
There
Sharm
you
el Sheikh
go.
on my
There
own.
you go.
Boom.
To basically, what am I going to do? I got 6 months left up here. I think my dad was saying like, just come home. Like, we'll pay you rent. You just come back. And I was like, I don't want to do that. Like, I've got 6 months. Let's see what I can do in 6 months. I'll try and find another job. Yeah. And when I got back, I met a girl who I then spent the next like 18 months with. So he got a job working at the Sheffield Star, like back in sales, which had always been my background as a kid. Moved in with her and her daughter, thinking that this is me now. Like, I'm happy. Like, the first girl that I ever loved, and it was kind of the first person that I felt loved me. Right. In the adult world. See, when you're at school and stuff, it's like puppy love or whatever you want to call it. It's not serious, but it's like this is the first person that wants to be with me, and it was like I latched onto that. Obviously missed all, I guess you can call it red flags now. One day going to work, she sent me a message to say that she doesn't want to be with me anymore. I'm going to stay at my dad's tonight. I want you to pack up your stuff. And it was from that moment, I literally was like, what the fuck am I going to do? Like,
was that triggering? As in, did you feel like you needed to regress back with things like that?
That was my thoughts. That was my thought pattern. I guess you could probably class it as like an anxiety attack. Again, it was like, I spent a night in a hotel, and then I moved in with my brother and my sister-in-law. And then it was from that point that I don't even know what made me do it. I knew that there was a gym that was overlooking where I used to live with her. And I was like, maybe she doesn't want to be with me because I'm not man enough. I don't look, when I first started going to the gym, I was 9.5 stone. And obviously I'm like 6'4". So it was like, maybe I'm not a man. Maybe I don't feel like, maybe she doesn't look at me and think like that's someone that's like macho view of like, he's not going to protect me. Like, I have to look after him. So it's like, maybe if I got a bit bigger, she'd want me back. And then we can all be happy again. And then, so I started going to the gym, made friends with the guy that owned the gym and his son, and they both literally took me under their wing, told them my story, and they was like, if you want to change, we'll help you change. If you commit to us, we'll get you where you want to be. And then in 18 months, I'd put on like 5.5 stone. Obviously tracked the journey on Instagram. So my Instagram kind of like blew up because of that. And then I quit my job at the Sheffield Star because I literally just wanted to focus my time on the gym. So I basically became I was like, my job was to get myself where I want to be. It's probably not a stupid thing in my dad's eyes to do it. Like, where's the money coming in? Oh, it's all right. I'll just live off whatever savings I got left. And
Typical parent reaction.
Yeah.
That's not safe.
But then, in hindsight, obviously, I think it was like the best thing that I could do. I took like time away from anything else and just focused on. Again, probably was obsessive, but to me, it was a necessary thing to focus on.
Yeah,
and
absolutely. You got to have something, haven't you? You know.
Yeah.
It's just when it starts to head into the detrimental factor, and I think ultimately it's about that goal. Like, am I reaching this goal by doing this?
Yeah.
Not if I get injured. No.
Yeah.
So then that can help your decision making.
Yeah, 100%.
You know.
I think at that time, the initial goal was to bit myself a little bit bigger to make her want me, and then I'm sure, like, you know, when you start training, it is when you start like lifting weight that when you first started going there, and it's like, oh God, I never lift that. That's big boy weights, and then they're like, it's like easy that, and then people are commenting and. Like, you're getting attention off people that you've maybe not ever had before. So it's like your initial goal has gone out the window. Like no disrespect to the girl that I was with, but we met up. She reached out to me like 2 years after we split up, and I met her for a coffee because I never had closure.
Yeah,
I wanted closure of the situation. And like the girl that walked in was the same girl that I saw the day that I walked out and went to work. Like, she hadn't changed, and it was like. The James that you knew is not me now. Like, I'm so much different.
Yeah.
Like,
did you kind of, in a strange way, did you thank her?
That's exactly what I said.
Yeah.
I was like, I have I've got no like animosity towards you. I was like, had you not have done what you'd done, I was happy with what I had. Mm-hmm. You literally pulled that rug from beneath me, and for the first time, really since whatever. I swam. I didn't sink.
Yeah.
And I like, had she not have done that, who knows where I would have been. And I think that's like the take home message for that is for anyone that's had to deal with crap and they feel that they have hit rock bottom, or they just go like they don't know what to do. There is a way of focusing on something, whatever that may be. Putting all your efforts into a passion or a hobby, and it's like, it may not always happen, but opportunity just seemed to manifest itself from that.
Yeah.
And like, I never thought about being a PT. I never thought about doing modelling. I never thought about doing like extra work. I've met like footballers and celebrities. It's like, it's crazy.
You've met us too now.
Exactly. Exactly.
What do you want?
So yeah, so it's just like he said. The thing is just keep going. That's the thing. Yeah. Like however you choose to do it, it's just keep going. And obviously, I'm lucky enough to have a support network around. And it's like, if you've got people around you that are like that, then tell them how you're feeling, and like you said, they could share something that resonates with you, or you can do your own work independently. And you said that you find a little phrase, and then it can change your life. Just one little nugget of information. Yeah. So
now you're giving back as well.
Yeah,
you know,
I think it's just I know there are obviously like a lot of mental health charities, but I think I still haven't found many guys that are open about like their eating disorder. And I think like it's kind of a catch-22, because most guys that have issues around food, they're normally interested in the gym and they want to get bigger, but if you want to get bigger, you've got to eat. And it's like this, it's about coming up with a plan with those guys. That's like, it's to get to one, you've got a goal in your head, but then you've got this big like fear of food, and it's about understanding what that fear is And it's like most, it's like you're standing on the edge of a cliff, and it's like I'm telling you to jump, and you're just like, no, I'm not, no, I can't do that. But it's like, do you want to get to your goal? Yeah, then you got to jump. Like I'll help you, but I can give you all this knowledge, but you need to jump. I can't do it for you. And like it's about obviously understanding what their relationship is with food and trying to obviously like tackle it with them.
Do you find that the people that are approaching you then, do they all have eating disorders, or because you are called the mental health PT?
Yeah.
Are your clients predominantly coming to you with mental health, or is it eating disorders? And
majority of them, it's the like anxiety, social anxiety.
Right.
I think lockdowns played a massive part of that. I've never been nervous about talking or being around people that I don't know. But I remember the first time I went to, after all the leg breaks, I remember going to football training, and like, although I was mentally worried about me leg breaking, and I hadn't even thought about it until I got to football, and there's like 15 of my football mates there. I forgot how to act in a social scenario. Like, when do I talk? When do I do I just listen to everyone? Do I not say anything? It was like, I remember, it's like, what am I doing? Like, this is, and speaking to other people, they all done the same thing. Like, people didn't want to go back to work. They wanted to carry on working from home. And it was about, again, it was like understanding what's that trigger? What is it that's made you feel like that? And obviously then it's working on, again, for how long lockdown was, people have got into like bad habits or bad unhealthy routines, and it's obviously about unlocking them and trying to. You can never change your routine. You can replace it. You can't get rid of it because it's already ingrained. But it's obviously about changing and replacing that cue, that bad thing, or that whatever that trigger is for you. It's about understanding it and then trying to develop it into a positive, putting a positive spin on it. Yeah, so definitely. It's more the anxiety, depression,
right?
Because again, it's like people want to change, and unless you've got a gym in your house that most people don't, they have to take that leap into a big scary place, into a gym, which is, depending on what type of gyms you go to, it can be like testosterone, male dominated, grunting, and it's like you say that to a guy that doesn't feel very manly, and it's like that's like the worst place in the world for them. But yeah, and it's obviously about working with them, setting like your short, medium, long term goals that all kind of roll into one. Yeah, and just doing that.
That's great, man.
Does it ever cross the line? Sorry, does it ever cross the line for you in terms of your personal boundaries when you're working with, such clients, anxiety, depression, things like that? Does it ever become a bit of a challenge for you in terms of your social time? Does it eat into your emotional energy as well? Because that can be quite heavy. That
was one of the biggest concerns my dad had, because it's almost like people were going to unbear their soul to you, and then what are you doing about it? But I'm quite fortunate. I've kind of like, it's not that I put up a barrier. I think because a lot of the things that they're telling me I've already been through and experienced it myself to some degree. Obviously, you're not going to have, they're not going to go through the exact same things that I've gone, but a lot of the feelings and their fears and their concerns like are relatable. And I think like I don't kind of, because I've already been through it myself, I don't take it away like with me. I kind of, it's kind of hard. It's not that I don't care. It's I know there's a way to deal with it, so I don't really feel there's this. I don't have the burden or like the weight of the world of the shoulders off them. I think like working with them and coming away with like an action plan, and that's kind of like, that's probably my way of unloading it. It's like I've got all that from what you said, and then I've this is how I feel that we should tackle it, and they're like, let's give it a go. So you kind of, they're giving you the negatives, you're kind of turning that
solution
into
focused.
And it's kind of like, that's how like I give back their worries in kind of hopefully like manageable pieces of information or direction to take going forward. So it's nice. I wouldn't say like some of the stuff is awful, and I can't, some of the things I can't even imagine myself what it'd be like. It's like, you think I'm strong, like you've just told me that, and you're still wanting to change. You're still like, you're far stronger than me. And it's almost like you're turning their negative into a positive because they can't see it. They think that they have this, like the weight of the world on their shoulders, or this dark cloud above them. And it's like because they're in that negative mindset, or they've just been in that situation for so long that they can't see the positives of how far they've actually come. And it's obviously about explaining like where they're at. Look at like the photos from what you said you've been through from a year ago to now, and tell me that's the same person, because it's not. Look at you now. And it's almost like you're trying to slowly take that like mask off of them, or take that rucksack of woe off of them. And yeah, it's almost like seeing people that have been out of work, or they've had an addiction to something, and you've helped them get back into work. It's like, it's as much as I need to put a roof over my head and see pay my bills and stuff, but like to see someone give them the tools to be able to help change their life around, and have like mechanisms in place that the world is always going to screw you over. There's always going to be times when that stuff's going to happen that is completely out of your control, that is going to knock you off center. But it's like, if you've got things in place that you can go, right, this has happened, let's revert back to this. Like, I've done it once before, I can do it again. And it's like, if you've got like manageable coping mechanisms in place, that things don't seem that bad because you have that action plan to go on as like a backup. And obviously that's how I deal with things. I think I can only teach people what I've taught myself, or I've learned myself. And it's think like, obviously it worked for me, and it's working for other people. So like, there's never I wish there was a one size like fits all thing, because I'd be well rich. I could just there you go. Like, you wouldn't. Yeah, there'd be no.
Very complex though. The mind, isn't it?
Yeah, it's obviously and it's really hard that people. It obviously everyone takes different amount of time to get to that point where it's like they're accepting whatever their trauma is, and they're trying to leave it behind. But obviously, if you've had it for so long, it's obviously like that 10 years of my eating disorder. It was like it defined me for a chunk of my life. And it's obviously, it'd be the same with anyone else that's had any sort of trauma. It's very hard to let go.
A lot of people don't like change as well, even if it's toxic. They still like to stay in it. You know,
exactly that. And it's almost like
the uncertainty. Makes people.
Where do I go? Where do I go from here?
Yeah.
And obviously that's what, like, I guess people that have got like lived or shared experience, it's like I can help guide you, hold your hand if need be, like for as long as you like stabilizers on the bike until we can take them off and you feel that you can do that on your own. Like, that's kind of what I'm here to try and do and help people. Yeah. So, yeah.
Do you feel like you're in a place of full healing now? Do you feel like you're completely out of those days, or do they come back and talk to you sometimes and it's like, oh, hello, we need to deal with this again, and you have a different, you have to constantly implement your own strategies and coping mechanisms to this day?
I'd say that they flare up. They probably like flare up every now and then. Obviously, like everyone has like good days and bad days. In regards to like, I don't know, it's not that I've got like body dysmorphia or whatever, but sometimes I look in and I think like, oh, I could look better, and I feel like crap because of it. But then it's like because I have that feeling so often, I know that it passes, and it's like I may be like a miserable twat for an hour or so, or I'll be like short with my missus, but I'll tell her how I'm feeling, so she knows I'm not just being a dick. Like there's a reason for it. And then whether it's like work, or I go and train someone, or I train myself, it's like that it's passing. It is almost like I'm still here. Like, you're not.
You still have a relationship with it, sort of thing, but you know how to deal with it.
Yeah, I think I know, and I'm aware enough to know that it's like a passing thing. It's like, are you ever like fully like healed from something? I don't.
I guess it's hard to differentiate, isn't it? Because what you were describing there is, you're looking in the mirror and you're thinking, oh, could look a bit better. Is that normal? Because I think,
who doesn't?
Who doesn't? Yeah.
But also in our profession, I think we've got more pressure there. I've carried that for sure.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah,
I've
you almost
been-
like practice what you preach or whatever.
Yeah, but that can
Yeah.
become unhealthy as well.
Yeah,
And again,
yeah.
I've ventured down that route, and it's only taken me, in all seriousness, it's only taken me the last couple of years to really be okay with rest. And I'm talking about weeks of it.
Yeah,
you
I
know,
think-
like
I
going
think-
on a holiday and not doing anything, not going for a run, not training, nothing.
I only learnt that through lockdown. I only learnt that because that was taken, my ability to train was taken away from me. And I realised that I'm still here. I'm fine. Like I learnt through it being taken away from me. So I kind of like, did I really learn it? Probably not. It was like forced upon me, the fact that I couldn't train because my leg was in a cast. The gyms were shut. Obviously, like I did like bits like body weight stuff at home, but it was like it wasn't consistent, and it was kind of like I understood that nothing. You think like I'm gonna get like really fat if I don't train, and if I don't do this, I'm gonna lose so much size. It's like I lost size on my legs, obviously, because of just not being able to walk, but like upper body and stuff, it was like that. Oh, it's not as bad as I thought. So yeah, it's just like if I'm busy with work and I don't get a chance to train, as long as I've been active and I've got me watch, get long and get me steps in and stuff, which I always do. Me 10,000 steps. That's probably like another addiction of mine that I have to do.
Same.
It's almost like that's okay, that's all right. If I don't make it to the gym because of that, it's not the end of the world. Like I'll go again tomorrow.
Yeah. Get this for anxious and unhealthy. So lockdown, I knew it were coming. I've rung my mate who helps do gym fit outs.
Yeah.
And I'm like, right, I'll have one of them, I'll have that set, I'll have these. And I ended up spending like about 1,500 quid and just kitting myself up, pulling everything into the kitchen, moving the table out of the way. And I trained and I stuck to my routine through lockdown. And talk about anxious and carrying this constant baggage. It's taken me a long time to get over that stuff. So, and we seem to be healthy sometimes, and that's not healthy.
No,
in a way.
You're not 100% all the time, are you?
Well, you're not present.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Yeah.
There's a fine line though.
There really is.
Because is it anxiety or is it self-awareness, knowing that I have to have that there to feel my best self. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't have been myself in that moment. I'm different with it now. Still train, still doing my thing.
Yeah.
But I'm okay with taking 4 days, 7 days, 10 days if I need to take it.
Right, yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Probably need to work on that myself.
Yeah, it's a difficult thing once you get into the habit of it, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're right.
It is a tough one.
But yeah, what a journey, mate.
Yeah.
Talk about the self-made mind.
Wow. Yeah, this is the
That is it.
epitome of self-made. Going through that, you've not had anyone, really externally helping you. It's all come from within, from your own experiences.
Yep.
And I won't have anyone really probably better qualified than you are to help people who have been in your situation.
Well, yeah, I think obviously without if there was
I'm not talking about paper qualifications.
Yeah, I was going to say if there was like a mental health degree and stuff, I'd probably try and go down the route of doing that. But I think in terms of like practical, like lived experience and stuff, it probably sets me apart from others. So,
could you just give us just for people that might be listening who might be struggling, some kind of coping mechanisms or tools that you learnt from your experience to help you cope with the eating disorder?
The one thing one of the things I work with, like the clients with now, is that the thing I tried to get, if you have a worry in your head and you're anxious about whatever it may be, if it's whatever their vice is, if you put it on paper, because if you've got a problem in your head, how are you gonna think about it and deal with it all in your head? It's like if you put it on paper, and it's the same with if you want to then put like an action plan together and stuff. If you visualize it, if it's visually in front of you, if you can see your problems, it's then, to me, it's easier for me to work upon it and think like, is that really a problem? Is it a problem? Whereas obviously if you have it in your head, you can't it's to me, is it like visualize?
can-
It's easier when it's
You
like
talk about writing it
Yeah.
down, yeah.
It can be
Yeah.
a fantasy, can't it? And it can get blown out of proportion.
yeah.
I
And
guess.
I think when you if it's like if you think about it in your head and it starts to fester. I think if you put it on paper, it's just easier for you to go. Right, okay. If that's my problem, if I feel that I'm fat or I feel that I'm putting on weight, it's like, right, okay. What are we gonna action upon that? We can weigh yourself. Is weight the best measure? You could probably. It's not. To me, the best way is like it's how you look and feel. It's like if I was to train you for 6 months and like your goal was to lose weight, but you ended up putting weight on, but you felt better in all your clothes, would you want to do that? Yeah. Then your issue isn't weight. Yeah. The issue is about how you look and how you feel.
Yeah.
Just something like a little tip, as easy as that.
Yeah.
And it sounds so easy, but I think, like you said, it's very hard to have the issue in your head and deal with it all within, because you've got this internal battle with it. It's like if it's in front of you, it's just easier
Whilst you're
way.
scrolling on social media and
Yeah.
watching TV and listening to a conversation.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly
Like we
that.
do.
Yeah. So yeah, in a quiet room, no distractions. Yeah, so it's just like I say, it sounds easy, but it really works.
I think there's even a lot of like studies around, just journaling, just getting the thoughts out of your head onto paper can be massively beneficial.
I do all the time. Whenever I'm like I'm listening to podcasts. Whenever I go to the office, which is Costa normally, just use their Wi-Fi.
The Self-Made Mind podcast.
Yes. But it's like
Good answer.
If there's like you said, I love my little sayings and my little nuggets of information. It's like, jot that down. Or I've even started like doing voice notes and then listening it back. And it's like,
I do that as well.
And it's like you listen to it back like 2 or 3 times, and it's in there then, and you remember it.
You have thoughts all day, don't you? Sometimes they can just flutter in and out. So I think it's important, if you have a really good thought or a good idea, jot it down or record a voice note.
I think maybe the voice note is probably a newer thing, but the writing it down thing I've done really since that bit of that saying that the guy, that sports psychologist taught me. So it's like if whatever your goal is what you're about to do gonna get you closer to it or push you further away, like that. Pretty much from then on, it's almost like, that's good. That I'll write that down. Yeah. And then, like you said, that sticks in your brain, and then it's like, if you are ever tempted by anything, that will then, is that going to help? Probably not. And then you kind of then
That's a different level of self-reflection, though. That is a good skill to possess.
Yeah, but again, I think it's probably because of my past stuff. I think like you probably, people that have been able to recover from addictions and mental health issues, you probably are far more self-aware of how you're feeling. And obviously, anything you can do to, it's like fight them demons in your head, you'll do. And obviously, once something works for you, it's like you try and carry on with that for as long as it works. And then if that doesn't work, you try and find something else.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's self-awareness, self-discipline. I think in terms of like recovering from mental illness, I think they're the most important things. I think to me, being able to acknowledge that you have an issue and then being disciplined enough to act upon it, and obviously like communicate that with other people as well.
Yeah,
I think that's
big.
That's massive.
And it's courage as well.
Yeah, but yeah, there was so long as like the stigma attached to it. It's like it's weak. Like in my eyes, not that you want to like demonize it by saying it's weak, but like sitting on it and not telling everyone, to me that's weaker than standing up and saying, I need help here. Like stuff's gone on in my head and I can't deal with it on my own. Can you help? Or can you at least listen to me? To me, that takes far more strength than sitting on it and bottling it up. And obviously that's the whole like the break the stigma thing. It is true. I know it's only like a hashtag or whatever, but the meaning behind it is massive. So yeah.
Oh, fair play.
Yeah.
Very good point. Yeah. We're close to wrapping it up, James. Where can we find you? What's your social media handles? And if anyone's trying to get in touch with you,
yeah, social media handle is JJRoffy88. The website's easier. It's just jamesthementalhealthpt.com. So that's got a little bit about what I do, how I can help people, and testimonials and stuff. There's like free coaching call as well. So if people want to talk about their problems, and obviously if we can work together, then obviously that's where we'll come up with a plan in that coaching call as well. So yeah.
Amazing, mate. Have you got just a last word of advice for people? Someone who might be struggling mentally? A last leaving bit of wisdom from yourself?
I wouldn't even say it's a big bit of wisdom. It's probably going on from what we just spoke about in terms of like from obviously on my social media, there's like before and after pictures of where I was. Obviously at my worst, I was like 5.5 stone. Obviously now I'm probably like 15.5 stone or 14 stone, whatever. So it's like whatever you're going through doesn't define who you are. If you have that internal fight to change, you will. And obviously if you have a support network around you or people around you, talk to them. I think that's sometimes it's ultimately you that changes, but you don't have to do it on your own. Yeah. That's the take home message. And obviously, like a problem shared is a problem halved. Yeah. That's probably like a cliche final takeaway message, but it's true. It's true. Yeah. It's so true.
Wicked. Well,
very nice. It's been a pleasure talking to you
honestly,
today, James.
Thanks very much.
Pleasure, mate. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to another inspiring self-made story, and we hope you enjoyed the show. We would be very grateful if you could kindly leave us a review, as it will help us impact a wider audience. You can do this on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. If you want to reach out on the socials, find us across all platforms using @the Self-Made Minds Podcast. See you next time, and happy success making.